welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Ciriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your relatively relaxed host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm digging this today, Chris. We got a fully outdoor setup. You look like you are just on cloud nine right now.
Yeah, welcome to, I believe it's Naples, Maine, right beside Brandy Pond here. And it's, it's probably the coldest it'll be all day at, high 80s, even though it's even in Maine. But yeah, this is my vacation setup.
I love it. Usually when I do these shows, so we record at 10 in the morning usually, and sometimes I have to get like a sweatshirt or whatever when I'm out here because it's like in the mid 60s, sometimes even like low 50s. It is 85 degrees right now.
Yeah.
And it is 10 in the morning.
And
so it's gonna be a hot one today.
Gonna be a scorcher. I'm gonna try to stay as hydrated as possible.
Yeah, I got some plans today, so I mean, I'll have to try to stay out of the sun as much as I can, drink a lot of water,
Yes. So
yeah. Chris, what are you doing today up in Maine?
Well, I mean, outside of recording and whatever, distributing, promoting the podcast, I might go on an inflatable raft, chill out, try to get in the lake, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you got some nighttime plans out there. It'll be a little cooled down. You'll be out there on the outdoor setup you got there, right?
Right. Well, actually, at about 1:30, I'm probably gonna be leaving this place, and I'm not gonna be shipping up to Boston. I will be going down to Boston, and I'm gonna be going to
wow.
I'm gonna be going to a baseball game.
Oh, dude, I'm going to a baseball game in Boston tonight.
Really? Oh, are
Really?
you gonna go see
that's
the?
pretty neato.
Are you gonna go see the Boston Red Sox play?
I'm gonna see the Boston Red Stockings playing against the Kansas City Royals tonight. That's fascinating. We're going to the same game. How about that?
Wow. What? Where are you gonna be sitting?
We totally didn't plan. Like center field bleachers, like right around the Green Monster, but not actually there. Just dead center field.
Oh, that's gonna be. Those sound like good seats. I'm actually gonna be sitting around there too.
Yeah.
Wow. But yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe we'll see each other. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. We'll try to link up. But yeah, we're gonna be going to Fenway tonight.
Though.
So we gotta hurry some things up.
We just found that out.
Yeah, this was not planned at all. This was not planned for like the last
absolutely not
3 to 4 weeks or anything. This just was on the spot.
No.
That no one had to buy tickets for anybody. Nothing. But I guess
no one had to send a Venmo that said a home run or $1 for every Sammy Sosa home run in 2001. No, that didn't happen.
No, that exchange was never made.
No, that's just completely wild. I mean,
yeah.
It's a small world, right?
I mean, what are the odds?
That's just crazy.
But we have some.
I mean, it's basically like 1 in 162.
maybe, unless one of us
Maybe
disproportionately.
one at 81, assuming we're both going to Fenway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, depending on how often one goes to a game at Fenway, it could change. But
Because I
I mean,
usually go like once, maybe twice a year. You probably go more than that.
yeah, maybe 2 to 3 times, but not a crazy amount. Not not like 10 times a year or anything. I am out of
No.
state still. Uh, but yeah, there's some baseball to talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, some
Do you want to lead off?
yeah. Lead off. That's a good baseball terminology. Uh, but yeah,
Mhm.
the so actually this kind of just sprang up out of nowhere, and I was just on the MLB. I was on the MLB app looking at matchups for probably like Sunday or Saturday, and I noticed the Mariners were like 3 games above 500, and I was like, wait, what the heck? They must have. Well, okay, the Mariners must have been playing some relatively, low skilled teams, and then I looked at their past schedule, and I then I remembered, oh yeah, they swept the Rays in 4 games. The they were leading the AL East at the time, and then just recently they took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. It's it's pretty incredible. Like
3 out of 4.
yeah, no, I think it was 2. I mixed it up because for some reason on the MLB app
Okay.
also
Okay.
they have Saturday and Sunday as 2 different games, even though it was the same game because it was suspended. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's right, because it was suspended. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah, it was weird. So,
That did happen. Yeah.
but they've won 10 out of 13 regardless, and 7 of those games occurred against the White Sox and Rays, who, like a couple weeks ago, were in a battle for the best record in the American League, in a series. So it's pretty crazy what they've been able to do. And I mean, we just got to talk about it. They've won 10 out of 13. Um, I heard you have a take on the Mariners. I don't know if you want to get into it right away.
Yeah. So no, I'll save it. I'll save it. You can get into some of the nitty gritty stuff.
All right. Well, we'll talk for the just for reference. The Mariners are 7th in OPS, and this is in the MLB. 7th in OPS in this span, and 5th in ERA in their last 13 games. If you want to look at individual performances, Luis Torrens, he hasn't been an everyday player. He's only had 29 plate appearances in these 13 games, but when he does get up to the plate, it is good news because he's hitting 333 with a 1305 OPS in the span. Ty France has been an everyday player. He's hitting 298 with a 1009 OPS in this 13-game span. And on the pitching side of things, Chris Flexen has allowed 1 run in 14 and 2/3 innings pitched with 14 strikeouts and 2 walks. And Yusei Kikuchi, who you didn't have him as a how about that, but you did point him out in the preview of the weekend ahead. And in his last in this 13-game span, he's allowed 2 runs in 12 and 2/3 innings pitched. So things are going pretty well on both sides. I mean, the games they've won, it's not like they're blowing teams out, but they're playing very competitive games against very competitive teams, which is a very good sign. And I don't really know what to make of it just yet.
I mean, I can tell you what to make of it if that's all the numbers you have.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. So Chris, do you want to guess what the Mariners' run differential is this season?
I'm gonna guess -23.
-43.
Okay.
Yeah. The Mariners have a -43 run differential on the season. Their Pythagorean win-loss, which is based on run differential, is 35 and 44, despite them having a 41 and 38 record. That is the largest difference between run differential and actual record on the positive side. So essentially, the Mariners have been the luckiest team in baseball with Pythagorean win-loss. They are 8-1 in extra inning games, which is, extra innings are a little weird because of the rule. no team has won or has a better winning percentage or even close, really. Every other team that has one loss or less has no more than 4 wins, and every team that has 8 wins or more has no less than 3 losses. So the Mariners by far are the best team in extra innings, but that doesn't really seem sustainable with just with the rule. Also, they are 18-7 in one-run games. The next best winning percentage is the Angels at 11-6. This team, they a lot of obviously that explains the bad run differential because nearly half of their wins are one run. Literally 18 of their 41 wins are by a single run. Um, So it's pretty easy to believe that this isn't exactly sustainable, and I know it is only a 13 game sample, even if it was two of the better teams in the American League. Um, but here's my take: I don't think this stretch by the Mariners is going to be a precursor to a deeper playoff run. But what I do think it's going to be is the Mariners realizing what they have the potential to do in the coming years when they have more of their future stars performing well, which will then in turn lead them to firing Scott Service at the end of the year and getting their guy going forward.
Ah, this is this is a good take. This
Yeah,
is this is the
I
type of take I think where I will edit a video where you where you this podcast clip has is edited in, and you tweet out the video because you were
mhm.
correct, and and you predicted it months
Yeah, for
before
me,
this happening.
I don't think Scott Service has necessarily done a bad job as the Mariners manager. He got hired after 2016, following a different disappointing 2015 season. He hasn't made the playoffs, and he's had 2 winning seasons, not accounting this year, but 2 winning seasons removed from a 94 loss season. So I think he's been there too long for a guy that just hasn't made the playoffs, especially in a division that's going to be very strong going forward. The Mariners, I think the playoff window is going to open next year. You're going to have the first full year of Kellenic. You're going to have probably Julio Rodriguez. You're going to have maturing more. J.P. Crawford's obviously, he's uh he's been maturing a lot this year. I think the youth movement really starts next year, and that's where they're gonna want to have their guy. And I think that that's where a new manager comes in. Nothing. I think this is a similar take that I had with Rick Renteria with the White Sox last year. It was a year where they really saw what kind of potential they have with the youth that's coming up. So it's time to go get their guy. Except hopefully the Mariners don't hire a 76-year-old with 2 DUIs and a history of racial slurs. Because listen, the Mariners are a young team that has a lot of personality, and next year, like I feel like they're gonna want to have a manager that fits that archetype for a team.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
if the front office sees that there's hope in the roster that they have, which probably they already imagined there would be at this point, then yeah, it definitely adds influence for them to get a new manager and really do the correct process in getting the right manager for the team. We've discussed possible manager options for just teams in general this coming off season. I think Will Venable has come up. He was a popular candidate this past off season and is now a bench coach with the Red Sox. And I think there's some other options out there. Sam Fold, I think, is off the table for now because he's a GM for the Phillies.
He's the GM of the Phillies, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's working with Dave Dombrowski, so I don't know if he really. I don't
There's
know
probably
what is.
people that'll pop up.
Yeah, yeah. Um, there's going to be some popular names, but I think the most popular I could think of were Venable and Fold, but there will be more guys coming up
Yeah.
in the off season. So
Yeah, like people will pop up. Like this time last year, we couldn't have predicted guys like Venable and Fold would have been up as
yeah,
fans at least.
exactly.
Maybe some insiders could have known, but like people will pop up, and I think the Mariners will find. I trust that the Mariners will make the right decision in letting Scott Service go at the end of this season, and B, finding a guy that suits what their team is going to be. Because the Mariners were a different team in 2016. Like they still had Nelson Cruz, they still had Robinson Cano. Like they just weren't the team that they are now, and that's okay. Teams change, and with that comes a change in philosophy. And I think that Scott Service, all due respect, I don't think, like I said, I don't think he's done a bad job as a manager, but I think it's time for them to move on and look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is his 6th year managing the Mariners, and yeah, sometimes you just need a new flavor in the clubhouse, and someone else could bring that. And I should have mentioned, going back to the run differential thing, 3 of the Mariners' 4 wins were via walk-off. So, and I'm guessing if I go back,
but granted, one of them was walk-off grand slam.
Oh yeah, 5-1. Yeah, or no, not that game. 6-2,
Mm-hmm.
6-2 game. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they ever say if it's an extra innings on Baseball Reference, but I'm assuming some of them were in extra innings. But yeah, we just kind of had to address it because they, have won 10 of their last 13, 7 of them against, teams near the top of their division. Rays, unfortunately for them, not the leaders of the AL East right now, but we're not going to talk about that at the moment. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the Mariners, and we actually, one more subject at hand, because this is a getaway episode, as we mentioned before the recording. There's a very refreshing take from someone who you probably wouldn't expect this take from. You actually kind of preface this for us.
Yeah. So the Yankees broadcast booth during the Sunday game of their series with the Red Sox, they went on a bit of a tangent regarding something that has been a very popular topic on this show. And Chris and I, I showed this to Chris like immediately after I saw it. I was like, you got to look at this. And Chris, why don't you edit the clip in right here?
Everybody, for you to tell me analytically that it's better to strike out than hit a hard ground ball, I'm out, because it could turn into a double play. Well, it could also turn into a 2-run single. So strikeouts in my mind are still not good, and I just see hitters take it like it's no big deal, and there used to be a lot of pride in not striking out. And I think things will be sorted out, but boy, I loved, as you were reading that, I was just shaking my head. I'm like, wow, I'm glad that, and obviously Mike Schmidt, one of the better third basemen that ever played the game, and still in the games, still broadcasting, I think, on the weekends. So somewhat relevant to today's game on what's going on.
Any take, David?
I have a problem when somebody says analytics, as if analytics is one thing under one umbrella. What that tells me is that whoever's saying that doesn't understand what analytics really are, in my mind. The game has changed because you've got 5 or 6 relievers throwing 100 miles an hour on every team almost. And Mike Schmidt didn't have to face those relievers. He faced the starter 4 times. Aaron Judge is facing the starter once or twice. So there's more than one explanation for what's going on. The pitching is so much better and so much more deep. In particular, the bullpen. The game has changed. It's different. Now, is there some validity in some of the things he's saying? Yes. And what Paul's saying? Yes. But if you're going against launch angle, you're going against Ted Williams. This isn't new. Go read Ted Williams' book. This philosophy has been around forever. I could show you a New York Times article from 1910 that says everything that Mike Schmidt just said. Science is ruining the game. Nobody wants to walk anymore. Nobody wants to bunt anymore. Oh, New York Times, 1910. This is the argument that is perpetual. It's been around forever.
Yeah, so just like I said, not someone who you would expect that from. Virtually everyone who is in a broadcast booth right now is, talking about how launch angle is ruining baseball, and other things of that nature. And, they do address sometimes they address the difficulty of hitting now against today's pitchers, but a lot of the blame is on the batters and their quote unquote approach. Actually, if you want to see if you want to see the lack of change in approach, go and check Daniel's article on Diamond Digest, because that kind of delves it provides statistical analysis that says there's really no change outside of strikeout rate, pretty much. Launch angle has stayed the same, opposite field percentage has stayed the same, and line drive percentage has all stayed the same. Not everyone's just golfing the ball and popping the ball up or getting fly balls. It's just not like that, and it's statistically proven. And to have someone like David Cohn,
Yeah.
who was a veteran of the game, I would argue should be a Hall of Famer potentially, or at least should have more consideration for it. To have someone like him come out and say stuff that, guys like us are saying, very refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I said, like, Comrade Cohn is here. Like, how many is David Cohn the first, like, former player that has come out and defended the new age of baseball?
Um,
Other than, I mean, like, at least like that publicly. Like, I know Will Middlebrooks had a tweet where he was like, Coney hits the nail on the head here. Like, I love to see this. But, like, I don't know. I feel like we are just so prone to hearing from all these, these guys who played in like the 90s and early 2000s and any time before that about how, like, the hitting approach is different, and it's the reason why batters are like content with striking out and why they were content with having the lowest single season batting average ever at 238. Like, Mike Schmidt had comments that preceded this debate on the Yankees broadcast. But I think David Cohn's like the first, former player that has come out and defended all this, which is so refreshing. It makes me so happy.
yeah, it makes me happy too. And yeah, I think he's the first guy that hasn't like coached in the modern age to have this take, because I imagine, and it's never been like publicized, there's no like manager out there right now that's trying to own people who hate launch angle, but
Yeah.
people who,
You'd get instantly fired.
yeah, exactly, but people who coach now probably understand what's actually happening, because they're they're there every day and seeing what's happening and seeing the coaching strategies, and B, the types of pitchers that are coming out and how it compares to when they played. And it's like, and I can imagine they're probably like, oh, this is a lot different than when I played, but they're not publicly saying that launch angle is not the issue, but they probably know it in their heads.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked extensively about this topic, and we've beaten the dead horse. David Cohn said a lot of things that we just have not really addressed, like the fact that Mike Schmidt is the subject here because he had the comments, which I'll get next. But like, he was facing the starter 4 times. He wasn't facing 5 to 6 relievers out of the bullpen, throwing 100 miles an hour with movement. And going against launch angle was going against Ted Williams, because he wrote in his book that if you want to have a certain swing on the ball, so where you can hit it in the air and hit as many home runs as possible, because that's the most efficient way of driving in runs. And I don't mean to keep spoiling this for you, but in Brian Kenny's book, he talks about how Branch Rickey like actually tried to get analytics like on the board, and like he had a chalkboard where he wrote down like a bunch of percentages, and he was literally Branch Rickey was denied the analytical approach in like the 50s by a bunch of critics. So like this has been, this argument has perpetuated for so long, like he said, and like I'm glad someone with a platform finally said it.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that someone who has an audience that is probably skewed a little older also said that. You don't really hear that. I don't think people who are in an older generation get to hear that like point of view very often. So that was very nice. That was very nice to hear. Very nice to see that happened. Yeah, you got more.
Not only that, but you mentioned the Yankees audience, like they are a little older, but they're also frustrated Because guess what? The Yankees, they're 40-37. They just got swept by the Red Sox for the second time. There's all the talk about, if George Steinbrenner was still alive, he would have done this and that, which is true. I do think that George Steinbrenner would have handled this a lot differently. Boone would have been fired, like, on opening day when they lost to the Blue Jays. But, like, Aaron Boone sort of gets tied in with analytics because we all know that he's kind of a puppet for the baseball operations department. And the Yankees have become more analytically advanced. And one thing that I said is that if you look at the difference, like the team differences between like batting average to expected batting average, slugging percentage to baseball. And I do think there are flaws within the team, like regarding just there is a lack of clutch hitting. The rotation is very shaky, especially if Garrett Cole can't use spider tack now. But the reality is the Yankees are much better on paper and just in general than they've been on the field this year. And I still think that like they are very much a playoff contending team. And I think that analytics have helped in that they've gotten guys, analytics got you Luke Voigt. Like I know that, when you look at Yankees acquisitions over the last few years, it's like, it's Aroldis Chapman, it's John Carlos Stanton, it's uh Garrett Cole, like all these guys that you don't need analytics to know that they're good. But I mean, analytics got you Luke Voigt. That was an absolute steal. You traded Chase and Shreve to get him. You traded your worst reliever to get your four hitter, basically. Not to mention it helped develop Aaron Judge into what he became. Not to mention it's helped Gary that he's been in. Like analytics has helped the Yankees much more than they've hurt them. And there's all this talk of like I want Buck Showalter and I want them to stop focusing on this and that in the new age of baseball. That's not going to work. And David Cohn is just he laid it all out. If anything, I wish he didn't do it when the fan base was probably tuned out because it was the sixth inning in a 6-0 game on a Sunday sweep against the Red Sox.
Right. Yeah. And actually, it kind of ties in, but it was a funny story you were telling me about a conversation with someone with a Yankees fan that you know. Do you want to like briefly get into that because that was kind of funny how that went down?
I'll say this. So I'll just preface this whole story by saying I genuinely like this individual. He's been very great to me my whole life. I was at a graduation party on Saturday, and one of my old baseball coaches showed up who was a Yankee fan, and conversations started going into the Red Sox Yankees game from last night, and he talked about how he needs Boone fired and he needs the Yankees to start playing small ball and bunt more. And in defense, on Friday night the Yankees had the first two guys reach in the ninth inning against Matt Barnes, and Clint Frazier, the nine hitter, was swinging away and he struck out, which then proceeded to be a DJ LeMahieu double play to end the game. Which, in fairness, I can understand how bunting would have been a good move there. It's your nine hitter going. Even if Clint Frazier is a very good hitter, it is your nine hitter going into the leadoff spot where DJ's been hot lately. I can understand wanting to have bunted there, but he was talking about how he's upset with the Yankees and how they strike out a lot. And I was like, well, like, and now like they're only built to hit home runs and how teams like that will never succeed. And I was like, well, the Tampa Bay Rays are on pace to shatter the all-time record by strikeouts in a single season by a single team. And he was like, well, yeah, but like the Rays, like they play small ball, like they bunt a lot. And in my mind, I was like, I don't think that's true. And I didn't have the numbers to pull it up, so I kind of just ended it there. And then I went home and I looked at this. There are three teams, Chris, that have sacrifice bunted 4 times this season, which is the least amount by any team. They are the Astros, the Red Sox, and the Tampa Bay Rays. Guess which 3 teams in the American League have the best 3 records?
Those 3.
Those exact 3. And obviously, the National League teams have a lot more sacrifice bunts because of pitching. The Los Angeles Dodgers in 2020, they laid down 3 sacrifice bunts in 60 games, which, they won the World Series. The Tampa Bay Rays, 0. They laid down 0 sacrifice bunts. There were 3 teams that didn't roll a single sack bunt. They were the Rays, the Cincinnati Reds, who had one of the best offenses in baseball, and the Milwaukee Brewers. All 3 of those teams made the playoffs, and they didn't do a single sack bunt.
Yeah.
So, like, listen, the game is changing. So it's, if you're not going to adapt, you're just going to be miserable for the rest of your life watching baseball. And David Cohn is, he's on board, and I think he's in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point we were trying to get at. And yeah, the sack bunt thing does humor me. The fact that the teams with the least sack bunts happen to be the most successful, which is very, very funny. It's
And
just
it makes sense because the league, one of the big topics is the league batting average being at the lowest point it's ever been at 238. Like, why would you sacrifice bunt in an era where hits has never been harder because you're one of your three chances to get a hit.
right. Yeah.
Especially you are so limited to just a hit because we talk a lot about how a walk is the same as a hit. Hit a sack bunt, a walk probably isn't really going to do anything other than give you a force.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah, especially with a runner in scoring position by himself. But yeah, sack bunt thing is funny. It probably if the DH goes, it will probably be a dying thing if it it is already.
Like,
but
I can understand, and like I said, I can understand doing it to get a guy over on third with one out. Like, I think that does, like that puts you in a position where a ball in the air or a hit can score the run. But like, don't expect to see any sack bunts when the leadoff guy hits a single.
yeah, no, definitely. Like I like it in very specific scenarios. Like if you have a catcher batting ninth and there's first and second with nobody out, I am 100% for a bunt there. But like, yeah, just just like you mentioned, if I guess if LeMahieu hits a single, I'm not trying to have Judge bunt him over, obviously, and if
Absolutely
that's
not.
an
And I
extreme
could have
example.
understood it. I could have understood. Yeah. I could have understood the Yankees doing it on Friday though. Like Clint Frazier, even if
Yeah,
he is decent, he is your 9 hitter, and you're going into LeMahieu Judge with one out. Like you'll like your chances there. But Boone didn't do that, so they lost. And I mean, I still think Aaron Boone should be fired. If that's any consolation. Like I honestly can't believe he still has a job.
right, right. I see him. I Yeah, I see him getting fired after season's end. I think that's going to be a thing. If he has a job now, yeah, if he hasn't been fired by now, I think unless they get below 500, or if they're kind of like out of the playoff race by September, then I would see him getting fired. But I think after the season that will be a thing.
Did you see the quote that Brian Cashman had like a while ago? The first time they got swept by the Red Sox.
No, I didn't.
So he said like, someone asked like, are you gonna fire Aaron Boone? And he said like, well, we made our bed and we got to lay in it. Which is, I mean, loosely that's saying like, well, we made our decision. Even if we regret it, we got to roll with it.
What a what a what a thing to say about your managerial
Like,
situation.
imagine saying that in any other context. Like, Chris, you and you and I are both college students. Imagine if someone was like, "Hey, like, how do you like Springfield College?" And we were just like, "Well, we put in the deposits, so we got 4 years."
Yeah,
Like, I'm like, what does that tell you?
if we said that to someone's touring our college, they would probably be they'd get a negative connotation from that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So that's about all I had. Shout out to David Cohn. Comrade Cohn is here.
yes, refreshing, extremely refreshing. If only we had like a sponsor, we could segue that into like some
Oh
type
yeah,
of
by the way,
drink.
we didn't even talk about. I forgot. We didn't even talk about Mike Schmidt because he was the one who made the comments where he was like, I forget what I'll pull up the exact quote, but it was very contradictory. Okay, so Mike Schmidt, he wrote, I believe it was in the Associated Press. He said, Hall of Fame slugger Mike Schmidt wrote a story for the Associated Press in which he says, quote, "Frisk the pitcher is not warranted. Let's don't act. Let's don't act. That's an actual quote. Let's don't act like this is something new. This in today's generation of hitters can't or won't keep up with this generation of pitchers. The real question is why the gap? I have a simple answer: sabermetrics and analytics and other technology. While these sources of information have a place, they have had negative effects on hitters. This year, the overall MLB batting average could become the lowest ever, now around 238. Must be because the pitchers are cheating. No, it's because of shifting defenses coupled with hitters being led astray by information. Hitting the ball in the air is better than on the ground, striking out is only one out, and high velocity off the bat and a perfect launch angle makes a great hitter." Which I mean, I read those last three sentences and I was like, yeah, no, you're right. And you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Which, like, if a guy like Rod Carew came out and said this, I wouldn't really have much of a defense. But Mike Schmidt struck out 140 times a year, and he had a career batting average of 267.
Yeah.
Like, Mike Schmidt was ahead, and guess what? Nobody, absolutely nobody, demeans Mike Schmidt for the player that he was. Like, I will forever, like, until someone else comes along, I will say that Mike Schmidt is the greatest third baseman to ever play this game. Do I care that he struck out 140 times a year and had a career 267 batting average? Absolutely not. I don't care. I don't think it makes him a bad player at all. I still think it makes him the greatest third baseman to ever live.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny to hear it from him. Like you said, it would be different if it was like, Rod Carew or not, someone who was known for, or like Derek Jeter or something like that. Someone who's known
But
for
even then, like,
singles hitting.
But even then, none of those guys had to face the pitching in today's game, where you have, you're not facing the starter throwing 85 in the eighth inning anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Schmidt,
Facing
100,
Josh Hader.
180 strikeouts in 1975. Led the league.
Like,
I mean, the amount of times he led the
Chris,
league in strikeouts while
think
leading
about
the
this
league in
for a second.
homers.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish this.
But the amount of times he led the league in strikeouts while leading the league in home runs, like, he was strictly a launch angle guy. I mean, 1974, 1975, and 1976, all years where he led the league in both home runs and strikeouts. And let's see if there's any other years. 1983, he also did that with 40 home runs and 148 strikeouts. And it's not really loading up, but I was trying to see where he ranked all time in career strikeouts, but internet's a little iffy over here. So
He was third all time when he retired.
yeah, and I don't know if anyone has like produced the amount of plate appearances necessary to reach that since then. I don't think many people have passed him. He's probably still top 5, I would imagine.
And think about this, Chris. Like, one of the best pitchers of Mike Schmidt's generation was Nolan Ryan, who was famous for just throwing really hard. If you really think about it, like, if you place Nolan Ryan in this era, he's fitting in.
Yeah,
Like, he's just fitting in.
Yeah, you're saying
70s and 80s, because nobody else was throwing 100. Nolan Ryan would just be on par with everyone else. And that's honestly, that's still a compliment, because there are a lot of guys from that era that wouldn't do well at all in this era. Nolan Ryan is a guy that would fit in.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, Nolan Ryan would be someone who fit in. He'd probably be I mean, I hate to be insulting, but he would probably be a reliever in today's game, given that, most of his career he was a 2-pitch pitcher anyway, fastball, curveball, and then he added a changeup in it later in his career in his 40s when so he had some of his best years. But it like, he wouldn't have had. I mean, I guess his spin rate would have been pretty up there, especially with the ban of sticky substances. But and when I mean up there, I mean in terms of ranks in the league. But yeah, I mean, but I mean that's a different conversation for another day. But it was funny that Schmidt, the guy known for striking out, has that comment to say.
Is that comment? Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
and like,
strange. But
yeah, greatest third baseman of all time, 548 home runs, 908 career OPS, 148 career OPS plus. Just and yeah, featured on the History Series, episode 92. Check it out. But yeah, anything more on the subject?
I think that's about it. We needed to talk that because it's one of our topics to talk about on this show. Clearly.
Yeah, it's a pet peeve here on Above Replacement Radio. So now we have our players to highlight, the part we've most prepared for. And now for our Monday, June 28th, 2021 edition of How About That? So who do you have to highlight today?
All right. So this may sound a little odd at first, but Chris, listen, hand up. I selected a how about that based on the eye test. I'm sorry. I know that we don't do that on this show, but I looked at a guy and I was like, you know what? There's something about him. And I looked into the numbers and it fit my narrative. So I'm sorry, but I looked at a guy and decided that he was good. I know that's forbidden, but I did it. And I'm talking about Willy Adames today, who is slashing 281, 356, 496, 852 since he joined the Brewers. And I know that's not outstanding, but bear with me. His 1.1 F WAR is for fourth among shortstops since May 22nd when he debuted for the Brewers. He also has 3 4-hit games since his debut on May 22nd, which ties him for the major league lead this season in 4-hit games, even though his first one came on May 27th. Here's where it gets interesting though. Willy Adames, despite being like a pretty good player this year, is 9th in win probability added, and he's 3rd since joining the Brewers, with only Fernando Tatis Jr. and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being ahead of him. He leads the majors in clutch ranking with a 211, with the next closest being 179. And since joining the Brewers, that clutch rating is a 1.50, with no one else in the league being above 1. And in high leverage situations this year, Willy Adames is slashing 579, 600, 1368 for an OPS of 1968. His OPS pitcher in high leverage situations in 20 plate appearances since joining the Brewers with a 424 weighted runs created plus. He has 4 home runs, 3 doubles, and 2 strikeouts in high leverage situation with the Brewers. So, the age-old question is, World Series Game 7, down by 1, bases loaded, 2 outs, 9th inning, all of that. Who do you want up? The answer, statistically speaking, is Willy Adames, because he has been excellent. Like, he doesn't hit a ton. I mean, he hits pretty well, but not a ton. But he hits when you need him to. And that's the important thing.
That's incredible. And I'm not even mad at you picking based off of eye test, because you have the statistical support. If you didn't have the statistical support, then I would have had to turn off my laptop
Willy
and
Adames
get out
looks
of
really
here.
good out there. How about that? Is Willy Adames for just looking really good out there. The Brewers have been thriving ever since he joined them. Willy Adames, he's been a real difference maker over there for the Brewers. He's swinging really well. He's hitting those home runs. He's even getting some base hits. 3 4-hit games. I mean, that's just, what more could you want out of your shortstop?
Yeah, I saw him. There were men on first and second, and he bunted them over, and I was like, wow, he's looking good out there.
It was awesome.
Yeah, the LGOT, as we like to call it, the LGOT metric.
Looking, yeah. The
Looking good.
LGOT plus is like 270.
The However, the expected
which of course stands
LGOT
for looks good out there.
expected LGOT is a little
It's
different,
definitely not as much. Yeah, no.
but we can accept it. It's hard to keep up that pace. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, very interesting. You know, something everyone should look into. See Willie Adames' effect on the Brewers. Because we were crediting the Rays
That's the
mostly for
game.
that trade, but the Brewers seem to be benefiting as
Yeah.
well. Both sides seem
Yeah,
to
they
be
are.
benefiting both pretty well.
Because they were
I-
they had some of the worst production out of their shortstops before the trade, and now he's tied for fourth in FWAR among shortstops since he got there.
Yeah, and I mean Wander Franco's working out pretty well for the Rays too. So I think everyone's getting what they want, except maybe the Brewers bullpen. I don't know. But not to overanalyze. My how about that
Still fine.
is last Monday's episode I did an Oakland A, and I'm gonna double up on that, and I'm gonna do another Oakland A. This time on the pitching side of things, Sean Manaea has been doing very well over the past month plus. In his last 7 starts, he has a 1.24 ERA, a 2.35 FIP, and 1 home run allowed in 43 2/3 innings pitched. Also, his innings pitched and ERA rank 3rd in this span, and his FIP ranks 7th. And I forgot, I needed to double check that. So coming into Sunday, that was the case. It might be different now, but regardless, he's probably top 5 in innings pitched and ERA, and his FIP is definitely in the top 10. And before the span, his ground ball rate, and this might actually be a change in approach that happened between before the span and after the span. But before this span, his ground ball rate was 39.7%, and in this span, in his 7-start span, where he's doing very well, his ground ball rate is up to 49.0%. And before the span, his line drive rate was 25.8%, and in the span, his line drive rate is down to 20.9%. That's 4.9 percentage point difference. So potentially a change in approach, getting the ball on the ground. Maybe he didn't plan on it happening that way, but it's working out for him, as he has a 1.24 ERA in his last 7 starts. So yeah, Sean Manaea, and I forgot to add so first of all, Willie Adames and Sean Manaea. So those were our players to highlight for good reasons. And now we'll get into some of the players or subjects that have been underperforming, where we are doing our June 28th, 2021 segment of Slightly Alarming. So who has been on your radar for the wrong reasons?
My slightly alarming is someone who you used, Chris, earlier this season for a How About That. I'm looking at a free agent to be. I'm looking at basically a superstar. Chris Bryant has been struggling since June 11th. He is 4 for his last 48, and is slashing since June 11th is slashing 083, 214, 208, 423. And that 083 average of his is the worst in the majors among 180 qualified hitters. The Cubs just dropped 3 of 4 to the Dodgers after the combined no-hitter. And a lot of that reason is because they just need Chris Bryant to be back to form. That's kind of all I had.
Well, two episodes in a row, I think we have the same guy.
Beautiful.
For that. I mean, I have a little more on Chris Bryant. I mean, what
I would hope you did.
what span did you have for where he had an 083 average?
I did since June 11th.
June 11th. I had June 5th.
June 11th.
So June 5th, since June 5th,
Okay.
in the last 19 games, he's hitting 109 with a 411 OPS. And I actually forgot to update the rankings from yesterday, but coming into Sunday, since June 5th, his OPS and weighted runs created plus ranked 180th out of 181 qualifiers. So that was pretty bad. I would imagine the rankings are around the same. Before the span, but before this 19-game span of him hitting 109, his hard hit rate was 42%, and in the span, it is down to 29%. Also before the span, his strikeout rate was 21.9%, and in the span, it is 30.6%. So we doubled down on Chris Bryant, and yeah, I was thinking new terminology, and whenever one of us,
we're on fire.
yeah, whenever I was thinking maybe whenever the same person does the same person for a how about that, and then does that same player for slightly alarming, like I just did. You know, I had a Chris Bryant as a how about that, and now I have him as a slightly alarming. Maybe we call that like a freeze over. Like it was hot and now it's not. Okay. Now he's cold. But you know, I'm trying to play with some vocabulary, because I imagine, because the season is much longer than it was last year, obviously. So we're probably going to have some repeats in terms of, you know, some guys might be both how about that's and slightly alarmings in the same season. And there might be some players where we do how about that's twice, because they've had like 2 excellent spans. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what we would call that. If we do 2 slightly alarmings in the same season, maybe you call that like a double down or something like that, something simple like that. But I don't know. This is stuff we can think about as I'm looking for Chris Bryant's OPS rankings in the last. So now he is his OPS ranks 176 out of 177 qualifiers since June 5th. So that's the updated statistic. But yeah, Chris Bryant, as expressed by both of us, slightly alarming. Not great. So now on to a preview of the week ahead. I kind of looked at some series already, but I kind of forgot. Let's take a look. See. Well, oh yeah, you have 2. I think just 2. Yeah, 2 matchups where it's first and second in the division going at it. You have Brewers Cubs, which is an opportunity for the Cubs to gain ground if they'd like to, as they seem to be 3 games behind the Brewers at this point. Brewers are doing pretty well for themselves as of late.
Games, yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Tuesday, I don't know if this starts Monday or Tuesday. Monday, yeah, it starts tonight, Monday. Tonight you probably have, I guess, the 2 best trending pitchers for each team. Freddie Peralta versus Kyle Hendricks. Peralta on the year 2.11 ERA. He was one of Daniel's how about that's, and Kyle Hendricks, who was one of my slightly alarmings, has been actually, you know, turned it around and looks more like Kyle Hendricks. He has a 3.84 ERA on the year now, and 10 wins, and you know, very good run support from the Cubs. Tuesday, you have Brandon Woodruff versus Zach Davies. Zach Davies, the famous 6 no-hit innings of the Dodgers with 5 walks in his last start. So maybe keep an eye on him. Probably due for some regression, I would imagine. And then on Wednesday, you have Corbin Burns versus Jake Arrieta. So the Cubs are in bad luck as they are facing the 3 best pitchers on the Milwaukee staff.
Yeah, the Brewers pitching staff could not have aligned more perfectly for this series.
Yeah, this is tough. I think the Cubs should focus on winning tonight, see if they could win on a Hendricks night. They seem to do pretty well when he pitches. But the other two, I'm not quite so sure on, unless Brandon Woodruff isn't quite the same without the sticky substances. But yeah, it's not great. That's a 3-game series, and then Dodgers Giants is going to be another great series. They've already matched up twice this year, and I don't know if there's any good pitching matchups. You will probably point them out. So what are the day-by-days for the upcoming week?
Tonight, Chris and I will be watching Danny Duffy versus the Garrett Richards retirement tour. Because Garrett Richards has just flat out said it's a good thing they did the down on subs now instead of 9.5 years ago. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a big league career. And it doesn't really seem like he's going to be able to adapt. So, yeah, we're probably going to see our Red Sox loss tonight. Even though the only slight bit of optimism is that Danny Duffy is coming off the IL, and he's made 2 appearances since coming off and has gone 3 innings combined, where he hasn't done bad at all. But I think they're just limiting his innings for right now, unless right now is when they want to start pushing him again. And so, I mean, if it becomes Garrett Richards versus the Royals bullpen, I'm a little more optimistic, but Danny Duffy's a great pitcher, and he's going tonight, so you're going to want to watch him if possible. You got Wade Miley going tonight against the Phillies in Cincy. You have Matt Manning going for the Tigers, his 3rd career start. He so far in his career, a 3.3 ERA, 3.38 ERA. Not bad. You have Zach Greinke going tonight against the Orioles. You obviously have the Hendricks-Peralta matchup that Chris mentioned. You have Lucas Giolito, and then I think the matchup of the night, Anthony DeSclafani versus Trevor Bauer. Bauer has been giving up the home run ball a lot recently. He's been noticeably struggling without the sticky stuff, but it is what it is. And then on Tuesday, you have Trevor Rogers going against Vincent Velasquez. Rogers, obviously, very good pitcher. You have Blake Snell going against the Cincinnati Reds. You have our guy Jose Urquidy going for the Astros. Dylan C, of course, meme lord in ARR lore. You have James Caprillion. You have one of the good matchups, Chris Flexen versus Robbie Ray. Chris just mentioned Flexen, and I've been mentioning Robbie Ray since he was born. But the matchup of the night also comes from Giants-Dodgers. It is Kevin Gausman versus Walker Buehler. Don't need much explanation there. And then on Wednesday, you have Kwang Hyun Kim going for the Cardinals. You have Corbin Burns, of course, for the Brewers, like Chris mentioned. You have Shohei Ohtani pitching in Yankee Stadium. That's going to be fun. You have Joe Musgrove going against the Cincinnati Reds. You have Taijuan Walker going against Max Fried. That is a good one. You have Luis Garcia going for the Astros. And I'd say you have Chris Bassett going for the A's. And I'd say the matchup of the night comes from Twins White Sox, where you got Jose Barrios going against Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, that's a good matchup. Gausman Buehler is definitely the probably the headliner of the week here. I mean, two of the nastiest pitchers out there. All right, so that does it. This went better than I thought it would, honestly. Main Wi-Fi. We're renting a house out from probably older people who probably don't care as much about Wi-Fi, but don't want to assume things. But went pretty well for the Getaway episode. We hope you enjoyed this one, and if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch that David Cohn clip, I know is probably mostly audio, but also want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to your YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio. Check out all the playlists there as well. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Thursday, hopefully again, where we will be talking all the happenings in Major League Baseball. Once again, see you then.
this conversation.
This conversation
is over.
is over.